Back again. Another episode of A Muslim and an Atheist Breaks Bread. We're saying, Pops.
Yeah, man, I'm good.
Right, so...
This mic,
what that, huh?
Move this mic a bit.
Move it. Yeah, there you go. So, we're diving into a bit about, one of the darker sides of Indian culture. I don't know if it's one of the darker sides, because there's culture everywhere, really, but one of the taboo things, taboo, untalked about, maybe one of the things that people may feel shame about. I don't know, man. I'm not Indian, so I couldn't tell you. But the caste system, obviously we're going to do a few videos on this, because you're going to get leftist propaganda, you're going to get rightist propaganda. The only thing to do is watch things from different sources and make your own mind up. So, bear with us again. You might not like even watching this. You might not like it about your own culture. So you might think, let me know what the caste system is like today if you're watching from India. Is it still prevalent? Is it around? Is it based on region? Is it based on race? Just let us know, innit, you things. I've been told, right, that Project SHIVOHAM is a well-researched channel. So a lot of the videos we've done, when I'm speaking to the people, they've told me that the people who made the video don't know what they're talking about. It's not researched well. But I've been told that this channel is well-researched and it's good. So we're going to start to look into this a bit more. Alright, this is called The Truth About Caste Discrimination in Ramayana. I don't know what Ramayana is, but...
We have ample of people with toxic mindset and toxic ideologies playing around us 24/7. And a very recent example is the visit of our Honorable President Draupadi Murmu to Puri Jagannath Temple, and how her visit was totally twisted and tweaked by certain section of people to portray it in a negative light in the name of caste. So this concept called caste continues to be a secret sauce for all those malicious people who want to stir up nasty things for their benefit. So this topic continues to be relevant, and in this context, let's try and understand, is Sri Ramayanam casteist in nature or not? And I'll explain why I chose this subject in a few minutes. But before that, quickly, my point of view and my position. First and foremost, no blind defense of Sri Ramayanam. I have no interest in defending Ramayanam. And by the end of this video, if you don't think or feel that Sri Ramayanam is something useful for people like you and me, you can just throw it out of your window. And second thing is, Uttarakanda or Uttara Ramayanam is an integral part of Sri Ramayanam. People have diverse opinions about Uttara Ramayanam, but 99.9% of them would have never read Uttara Ramayanam or don't even know the spelling of Uttara Ramayanam. People just jump to conclusions. I spent 1 year working on the subject, made an extensive documentary, and then I'm saying Uttara Ramayanam is an integral part of Sri Ramayanam. Maybe there are interpolations or extrapolations as part of Uttara Ramayanam, but it is very much an integral part of Sri Ramayanam. And needless to say that Valmiki Ramayanam is the single source of truth when we want to understand Sri Ramayanam from a historic standpoint and conceptual standpoint. Lastly, for the people who are having a toxic mindset, you call yourself a Brahmin, you call yourself a Shudra, you call yourself a Dalit, you belong to Abrahamic religions who have been using Sri Ramayanam in a negative light to further your conversion agenda. I'm speaking to all those kinds of people. Simple English, no confusion. Lion, cheetah, tiger, elephant. Very dangerous, but not in Jurassic Park. Because in that park, there is a dinosaur that will shoo away these lions, tigers, cheetahs and elephants. And people who call themselves as a Brahmin, Shudra, Dalit or a Christian or a Muslim having mindset which is toxic in nature, then Sri Ramayanam is that Jurassic Park. And the truth of Sri Ramayanam is the dinosaur that will smash away all the Brahmins, Shudras, Dalits, Christians, Muslims, everybody who has a toxic mindset. Not everyone, just the ones with...
I guess we can safely say this guy that does not believe in the caste system. And he's saying that it's been twisted and used to serve agendas, as we know, again, within our own caste system here in England. It's what happens. So yeah, man, I'm interested to see what my man says. I like this guy.
Toxic mindset. Pardon the pun about the dinosaur, but I promise by end of this video, I am very sure many people will feel very uncomfortable. So let's get started. It's quite simple and straightforward. I'm going to take four different cases from Sri Ramayanam, and let's try and understand word by word in Sanskritam what is written, and based on that you can form your opinions about Sri Ramayanam, whether it is casteist in nature or not. Case number 1, Shambhuka. A very quick backstory. The Shambhuka's episode comes in the Uttara Ramayanam. That's when Sri Rama starts ruling the Ayodhya and his entire kingdom. And in the Sri Rama's kingdom, a young Brahmin boy meets an untimely and unfortunate death. And the father of that Brahmin boy comes to the court of Sri Rama, seeking for justice for the untimely death of his son. And at that moment, Narada Maharshi, who was also present along with Sri Rama, he tries to understand the context and says that somewhere in your kingdom, a Shudra is performing a penance or a tapasya which is forbidden. Shudras are not allowed to do that kind of tapasya. And that is the reason why this Brahmin boy died. Now Sri Rama, it is up to you to do the justice. And that's when Sri Rama sets out and scours the entire Ayodhya and his kingdom to find where is this Shudra performing a forbidden tapasya, and he happens to find Shambhuka and kills Shambhuka because Shudras are not allowed to perform a certain kind of tapasya. And as soon as the Shambhuka was killed, the life of the Brahmin boy was restored by the Devas and he wakes up healthy again. Now here a Shudra called Shambhuka was killed to restore life to a Brahmin boy, and that happens to be a perfect recipe to portray Sri Ramayanam in an absolutely negative light. And this episode is the best trump card for the conversion cartels, saying that, see, your Sri Ramayanam discriminated you. Come to our religion, we'll take you to heaven. And that seems to be working because people never care to read what's actually written in Sri Ramayanam. So now let's read that word by word, a very important slokam, a pivotal one in the entire episode of Shambhuka Vada. These are the words of Narada Maharshi to Sri Rama. Hina varno nrupasrestha taptaye nahi vai tapaha bhavishyat shudra yonya nam tu tapascharya kalau yuge. And this is what Narada Maharshi says to Sri Rama. Rama, the greatest of all the kings, a Shudra should not perform a tapas or a penance. But in future, there comes a time called Kali Yuga where Shudras can also perform tapas. Honestly, it blew my mind when I read this slokam for the first time, because in the first line, it clearly says that a Shudra should not perform a tapas. And in the second line, it very much for the times that we are living in now, it is perfectly fine for Shudras also to perform tapas. Now, where the hell is discrimination? Maybe it was a rule written for those times. It is nowhere relevant for us today. The slokam itself says that. And the first line of this slokam is taken, twisted and tweaked to further social evils like untouchability, casteism, religious conversion cartels have been using this left, right, center. I don't want to go anything beyond this one slokam, because then it becomes that I'm trying to extrapolate and put Sri Ramayanam in a good light. No. And there comes another question. Oh, why should he have been killed? Why Sri Rama should be killing a person just for performing tapas? Look, if you don't know what is the social code of those times, don't try to retrofit current day's context onto what has happened some thousands of years ago. I'm focused on just one thing. The reason for which Shambhuka was killed being a Shudra, that reason does not apply for the times that we are living in, and that is being said by Sri Ramayanam itself. I rest my case. Case 2, Ravana. This is what Valmiki Maharshi writes about Ravana. Rakshasendram Mahabhagam Paulascha Kulanandanam. Ravana, who was born in the lineage of Paulascha Brahma. And what you're seeing on the screen is the family lineage of Ravana, right from Brahmadeva. And for all those half-educated intellectuals who have been using Shambhuka Vada to portray it as if Sri Ramayanam is anti-Shudra, a simple logical question to all those intellectuals is, Ravana himself is a Brahmana and he is killed, and we celebrate the death of a Brahmana over thousands of years and every year. Now, does it mean that Sri Ramayanam is anti-Brahman? Let's have a bit of common sense, guys. So this is case number 2. Let's move on to case number 3. Case 3, Guha. We all know that Guha, who was a fisherman who helped Rama, Sita and Lakshmana cross the Ganga Nadi. And Guha was a bhakta of Sri Rama. This is what we know. But unfortunately, this is wrong. Tatra raja guho nama ramasya atmasamah sakha nishada jatyau balavan stapati cha iti vrukshataha tam artha samparishvajya guho raghavam abravit. The translation is, a king named Guha was Rama's friend, dear to him as his own life. He was of Nishada Jati, a strong man and well known as a ruler of Nishadas. Closely embracing Rama, Guha, who was felt disturbed, spoke to Rama as follows. That's basically the translation of these lines. While introducing Guha in Sri Ramayanam, these are the words of Valmiki Maharshi. Carefully read these words, you will understand for yourself. Tatra Raja Guho Nama Ramasya Atma Samah Sakha. Sakha means friend. He is a very dear friend of Sri Rama, not a bhakta. He is of Nishada Jati, a tribal man, is a dear friend of Sri Rama. You already understand what I want to say. I'm not extrapolating, I'm not deriving something on my own. This is exactly what's written word by word. In the last line, if you see, Samparishvajya, which means to tightly hug. When Sri Rama and Guha meets for the first time, without uttering a single word, Guha runs to Sri Rama and hugs him tightly and cries because of all the difficulties that Sri Rama is about to face in his upcoming 14 years of exile. To all those half-educated intellectuals who linger on to the Sambhukavada, portraying it as if it's a caste discrimination, what would you say for the relationship between Guha and Rama? Go and read Sri Ramayanam and then try to make your opinions. Don't just beat around the bush like headless chickens, believing in the narratives that some communists or atheists have written about Sri Ramayanam. You're talking about a book? First go and read it. Again I repeat, case number 3, read about the relationship between Guha and Sri Rama, how it was detailed out. And Guha clearly is of a Nishada Jati and how dear he was to Sri Rama and their relationship, what they spoke to each other. It sounds exactly like the episode.
See, this kind of feels like first of all, this guy obviously does his research on it. Like he says, he's not like just messing around making videos. He's researching this, he's lived and breathed down it. So, in the last video we did, I might even upload this before the next video. So if you watch this one, you like it, watch the other one, but put into context that we watched this second, okay? But yeah, so in the last video, they were talking about how the caste system it was more feudal than it. So before the British went in there, it was more fluid. It wasn't this hate. It wasn't a hate thing. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if that's a video. But from what he's saying, like the actual teachings and what they're saying in the books, that's the way it would have been. It's not saying it wasn't a caste system, but it wasn't all this like we discriminate against that caste or this caste. We just got different paths in life, and it wasn't really a discrimination thing. It was just like we're just on different paths. So these researchers saying that, but it's just interesting, isn't it? Because again, in all religions, someone's written something down, and then someone's just used it for their own interpretation. Hence, what happens whether it's Islam, Christianity, Judaism. It's people, man. People are the problem.
Episode of Krishna and Sudhama. So that's case number 3. Case number 4, Matanga Maharshi. Certain section of people, after listening to this case, will not even dare to touch Sri Ramayanam. I challenge. Matanga Maharshi plays an extremely pivotal role in Sri Ramayanam, but unless you read Sri Ramayanam into the depths of it, will not be able to understand the role of Matanga Maharshi. He is the one who set the complete context and climate for Rama to meet Hanuman. Such a pivotal role Matanga Maharshi played. Matanga Maharshi is the guru of Sabari, and he asks Sabari to wait for the arrival of Sri Rama and eventually guide Sri Rama and Lakshmana to the Rishyamukha Parvat on which Sugriva and Hanuman are hiding from Vali. And in the further backstory, it is Matanga Maharshi who curses Vali that he cannot enter the premises of Rishyamukha Parvat on which the ashram of Matanga Maharshi was situated. By doing these two things, Matanga Maharshi made Sri Rama meet Hanuman, and the rest is history. Now that we have a brief idea about who is Matanga Maharshi, we need to understand who exactly is Matanga Maharshi. And to understand who exactly is Matanga Maharshi, we have to fall back onto Mahabharatam, which is also an itihas, an undisputable account of what has happened. So let's flip to Mahabharata for a couple of minutes. we should go to Mahabharatam Anushasana Parvam, 3rd chapter.
Just to make it clear, that are you understanding who Sri Rama is?
No, well, kind of.
From the picture, so Sri Rama's Vishnu, isn't it? So you had Vishnu, Brahma, and that's basically what they're talking about, the beef, isn't it? So this is the one thing I've learned from this video. A lot of this comes from the gods. So the castes, what you got? You got the Brahmins
Brahman
at the
caste.
top,
Yeah. And then
so
the head and the shoulder, let's put it that way.
yeah. So Sri Rama is Vishnu, and they're basically saying that there was some beef between them, and this is how the caste systems. This is what I'm getting.
Well, what
from
I'm
the
getting
video.
is, you remember it said the Brahma doesn't really interact with the lowest one,
Yes.
and Sri Rama is below
Yeah.
in it. So the closer to the bottom, the Brahmins can't have relationship with them, and this was just how it was playing out before.
But this is what I'm saying. So, but he was saying earlier on, in it, like in Task 1, that this whole thing's been taken into that context because someone done an illegal killing on it. So a Brahmin killed
Sri.
Shri, or a Shri. So then everyone's saying like it was a discrimination thing. It wasn't a discrimination thing. That was just a beef and someone killed someone illegally. But it's been taken into a context of knowing that now that there's this Vishnu and Brahma have got beef or had this beef because of this killing, which isn't true. So yeah, hope I'm understanding it right. Let me know if we're understanding it right, because there's a lot of things that we obviously clearly don't know. As your man's saying, a lot of Hindus don't know this, so why would we be expected to know it?
After one 10-minute video.
Yeah, exactly. But it's interesting, man. This is educational. Like I said, I like this video. How you feeling about it so far?
I'm interested. I've not heard it, so let's go.
Part of the conversation between Bhishmacharya on his Ampasaya to Yudhishthira. This entire chapter details about the life history of Matanga Maharshi. Sthane Matango Brahmanyam Nalabhad Bharatashabha Chandala Yonyau Jato Hi Kadham Brahmanyam Atpruyat. Yudhishthira is asking Bhishmacharya, O Bhishma Pitamaha, please narrate to me how Matanga Maharshi, who was born as a Chandala, evolved as a Brahmana in his life. A Chandala means an outcast. That's how in English it is translated. But the actual meaning of Chandala is the one who breeds dogs and takes care of the dead bodies, the cremation and other aspects related to it. People in that occupation are called as Chandalas, and it is considered as the lowest of all the Varnas. It's basically the outcast. So Matanga Maharshi was born as a Chandala, and eventually in his life, with all his hard work and tapas, he becomes a Brahmana. And it is the same Matanga Maharshi
You came enlightened from shit cleaner to guru.
So I don't really like that he became enlightened, because it's
Well, the Brahma caste, they the priesthood in it. So for him to be even reading a book.
Yeah, no, but just to say, like, it's almost, it almost breathes life into the caste system, and like he became enlightened. Well, how do you know he wasn't enlightened before? He just had a shit job. Do you know what I mean? Like.
Well, maybe he knew all the scriptures and the manuscript stuff before, but like I say, that's the concept of prophet, but then it just comes to you, you don't need to study it. So maybe him was one of those.
Maharshi was also present.
But again, another thing saying that the caste system wasn't rigid, because if people were changing caste, and it's written in the text. It's weird how people hold on to things as well, isn't it? Because it's only really going to be the upper class that don't really want to change things.
Absolutely.
Obviously, no one else is going to be bothered at it.
Follow the
Only
money.
going to be the upper class, the Brahmins who don't want nothing to change, really.
Was also present in Sri Ramayanam, guiding how Rama could meet Hanuman. The life history of Matanga Maharshi is very extensive and deep. If you want, read this chapter of Mahabharata, but I'll try to summarize it in simple words. Matanga Maharshi comes through a lot of hardships in his life, born as a Chandala, and he evolves as a Brahmana. Now, what is a Brahmana, or who is a Brahmana? The one who realizes the supreme reality, the Parabrahma, is called as a Brahmana, and it is not a birthright of any person. It is an evolutionary process where everybody can attain that state and become a Brahmana. That is exactly what Matanga Maharshi's life history says. That is what effectively all the scripture says. It is not a virtue by birth. It is the hard work of that individual through which one can attain the state of Brahmana. If you read the complete chapter, you will understand what Bhishma Pitamaha said about Brahmanatva. He clearly says that it is something that one has to earn throughout his or her life. And for all those half-educated intellectuals who talk about Shambhukavada as a caste discrimination, what's your take on Matanga Maharshi? I know that you have dropped dead silence because what you have is not an opinion. You're a victim of a propaganda. Anyways, let me stick on to the topic of Matanga Maharshi. So the life history of Matanga Maharshi is very deep and extensive. I will not be able to cover in just a couple of minutes. So what I'll also rely on is a very important, undisputable account. Let's see what it is. One of the divine manifestations of Shakti is Matangi. Matangi Ma is revered as a form of Tantrika Saraswati. And the Matangi Gayatri Mahamantram goes like this. Om Matangye cha vidmahi uchchishta chandalyau cha dhimahi tanno devi prachodayat. Matangima is also revered as a Uchchishta Chandalini, and the word Chandalini is a feminine version and Chandala is a masculine version. Both essentially mean the same, the one who breeds dogs and takes care of the dead bodies, its cremation and other activities. Let's be very honest here and don't blame Mughals and British for every damn thing. We have this social practice, rather an evil practice, of not allowing people of a certain community into the temples. And unfortunately, the Chandalas were also part of such community who were deprived of their right to pray, enter a temple because they were outcast. And we all know that the Brahmin community historically has been held accountable for these kind of practices where people were not allowed into the temples. The irony here is, take a Shivalayam for instance. Shiva himself is the biggest of all Chandalas. So basically, worshipping a Chandala is what's happening in a Shivalayam. And other Chandalas were not allowed to enter temple to pray to the bigger Chandala. Now this is a very nuanced subject. Before you make the entire Brahmin community as a villain, we need to understand certain nuanced subjects in this context. Not allowing everybody to enter a Garbhagriha is a Sadachara. Only the Archaka can go into the Garbhagriha of a temple. But not allowing a specific community even to step into the temple to worship is a Durachara. It's a very nuanced and thin line that one should understand. I know it sounds a bit complex, so as I promised, I'll make things simple. So if you want to know whether a person is Brahmana or not, it is very simple. Take this one slokam and ask them, do you believe and agree to this slokam, yes or no? If the person heartfully says yes, then the person is a Brahmana. And if a person cannot agree to this one, then the person is not a Brahmana. They are just boasting themselves to be a Brahmana. It's as simple as that. And these are the words of Shankaracharya. Jati niti kula gotra duragam nama rupa guna dosha varjitam desha kala vishayati vartiyad brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani. That is the bottom line. Now let us roll up to the objective of this documentary, the truth about caste discrimination in Ramayanam. Now we have seen 4 cases: Shambhuka, Ravana, Guha and Matanga Maharshi. Shambhuka, a Shudra, was killed for his adharmic intentions. What was his intention? His objective was to go to heaven to experience the sensual pleasures with the same body that he is holding now. And that is the reason he has been performing a tapas, which doesn't fit into the dharmic code of those times, and hence he was punished. And in the same slokam, it clearly says that this rule does not apply to Kali Yuga. So there should not be any problem with Shambhuka. Number 2, Ravana. A Brahmana was killed for his atrocities and adharma. No one cries over Ramayanam saying that a Brahmana was killed. People celebrate the death of a Brahmana. And case number 3, Guha, a hunter of a Nishada Jati. He is a very dear friend of Sri Rama. Don't call Guha only as a Bhakta of Sri Rama. He is a very dear friend of Sri Rama. And case number 4, the Big Bang, Matanga Maharshi, who was born as a Chandala, evolved as a Brahmana. Now there is a red line between case 1, case 2 and case 3, case 4. Case 1 and 2 is all about what the person actually is, his deeds and his actions decided the fate of that person, irrespective of the caste. And case 3 and 4 is the same thing again. Guha is a very honest person and a dear friend of Sri Rama, and his caste doesn't matter. Matanga Maharshi, who was born into the lowest of all castes, rose to the highest point of a Brahmana. It's not a birthright. Brahmana or being a Brahmana is not a birthright of anybody. Now this is the truth of Ramayanam. Can you handle the truth? That's my straight question. Now, if we look at Sri Ramayanam to understand if there is a caste-based discrimination in Sri Ramayanam, yes or no, then these 4 cases will leave us to deeply think on what actually we have been taught about Sri Ramayanam. If you are a Brahmin and you look down upon other caste people, saying that they are untouchables, then Sri Ramayanam asks you a question, my dear friend, what do you think about Matanga Maharshi and Guha? And coming to Shudras and Dalits, you might have certain experiences and viewpoints about caste-based oppression. I do empathize with that. But look at Sri Ramayanam. It is not a copyrighted property of anybody. It belongs to everybody. And this great grand epic clearly demonstrates that there is no such thing as caste-based oppression, and it treats equally everyone based on that person's deeds and actions. And this is the reason why we bow down to Sri Ramayanam. You don't believe the half-truths that people with certain agenda are peddling into your mind, saying that Shudra or Shambhuka was killed and there is a caste-based discrimination. Where all this coming in from? This all originates from a negative propaganda where you are made to be the victim. You don't like a specific community, I have no problem with that. But if you misunderstand Sri Ramayanam, I really have to say this out loud. I cannot let it happen. I want people to understand Sri Ramayanam for what it really is. And that's my sole intention. Now, coming to the people who are using Sri Ramayanam in negative light to propagate religious conversions, let's have a civilized conversation. Clearly, Shambhuka Vada has nothing to do with a caste-based discrimination. Yet, it is being maliciously used to further the conversion agenda. Can you afford to be truthful? Sri Ramayanam has been sacrosanct for Bharat over thousands of years, and how can you dare to twist and tweak it to portray it in a negative light? And also, I have a news for you. There are people like me out there who will not let it happen, and we always uphold what is the truth. Let me finally and categorically say something. Throughout this documentary, I have been addressing to the people who are having very skewed perspective or a toxic mindset, and it is not in general for everyone. And hope that's understood well. And my only intention is to bring forward the truth about Sri Ramayanam. Now, if you can handle the truth or cannot handle the truth, it's up to you. And as always, thanks for watching.
Okay, so after watching that, compared to the last video, what's your perception of it now?
Nothing that was kind of specific to the text in it. So again, you can place that traditionally they did have rules, but there was flexibility, whereas it was kind of not really about the people living. It was focused on that text in it, those 4 case studies.
But that's what I guess the people live by, innit? I guess like the people's justification to how they live is based off that text, isn't it? So yeah, although that's happening, what you're basing and rationalizing the reason why you think the way you think is because you think that this text, or whether you think or don't, you think this text justifies your behavior, which is what a lot of happens in religion.
Misinterpretation.
Yeah. So he's just saying, like, so at the end of the day, let's break it down. So I like that. It goes deeper into it, and than rather, like you said, the societal way. Like, we know, again, racism exists. We know there's going to be texts that people hide behind and justify that stuff behind. But the way he's broke that down wasn't really necessarily saying about the caste system, like you said. but it was just about the relationship. So it was kind of like, well, if you're saying that the caste systems, you can't speak to you, how can that be? Because his best friend was the same, and that's the God you're praying to.
Yeah,
and the
well,
God,
instead, sufferers can't go and pray to a sufferer.
yeah, so it's like your God that you're praying to was a
one of
Chandala.
these.
He was an outcast.
Until he became enlightened, and then now you don't want other people.
So,
Yeah, systems is dumb, man, but it's power and control, man. Everything is power and control. At the end of the day, knowledge is it. Right. What it does show is that even in that society that invented zeros and all this history and everything, there's some mad shit going on exactly the same way, and it was always going on, and it hasn't changed really. You know, because technologically, India's a superpower now, but they've still got the same problems from 2,000, 5,000 years ago, carrying on with this casting and differentiation of people.
but like I said, you're never going to get away from that. That's ingrained. I think it's ingrained in people to form groups, and they form them however they
Don't
can.
you think it's kind of around survival? Because the man them in the big house,
100%.
they know when they shit in the toilet, they're not drinking shitty water, whereas the man who's cleaning the thing is drinking shitty
we
water.
say it's the man in the big house, but even when you're not in the big house, you're going to form groups. People love groups, survival. So, regardless of the big house...
So the Dalits will have a group beneath them, you think?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I bet, there's the people who clean the street and the people who have the dead bodies. And they're
divided.
like, yo, don't chat to them. They're the ones who touch the dead bodies.
Again, but they would still all live in the same community, because
Doesn't
any
matter.
one of them that you touch, you have to go and shower in it.
Yeah, so there's
So
communities.
amongst themselves, they obviously don't shower when they touch each other.
You don't know that, innit? There's communities within communities, innit?
Let's assume that, man.
There's
The
communities
sufferers
in there.
tend to be one group compared to, but yeah, it's possible.
You say that, but look at black people, right? Yeah. So, how many shades of black are there? There's a big thing,
One.
colorism. Yeah, but look at colorism, innit? The sufferers will pick apart who they feel they can pick apart. So, you've got predominantly, you can have a black person, light skin, red skin, dark skin. They separate into groups themselves. Because again, people like to have control and they like to have groups no matter what you do. So although, like your man said, like, you know, you can blame the British, you can blame the big house, but really it's just people. People love to live that separatist life.
Possible. You know, again, I'm going to go with Africa, because this is my thing. There was definitely different tribes and different... There was a lot of movement and a lot of multi-crossover that we don't hear about. We just hear about the Zulus or the Ashanti or the this and that. But I'm sure it used to mix too. So there's separatism, but isn't it that village, you grow up in a village and they build a fence around it, so that makes one community, and then you build another one. Mm-hmm. So, you know, our supply of water, whatever dictates how communities are
it's protecting
formed.
your resources, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what happens. Like, you're going to protect your resources for your people, your gang, or whatever you want to say.
And the person with the biggest stick is, you know, the highest caste, effectively, innit?
Yeah, definitely. But you'd think that, but the warrior caste isn't the biggest caste. They're the ones who go around killing people. Like the Brahmin caste are the people who are reading the books.
Yeah, but
I guess the book is the biggest.
I was gonna
stick,
say
really.
enlightenment is the
biggest stick.
the guy.
Yeah, you're right. All right, so that was the truth about caste discrimination. Remember, if you watch this video, I'm gonna upload 2 videos about the caste system, in quite quick succession as well. But we watch this 1 second, so just keep that into context when you're watching the other one. All right, we out. Peace.
Peace.